Zeta Division are the third strongest team in Asia, right behind the Titans that are Team Falcons and Crazy Raccoon. Unfortunately for this season of OWCS, Asia only receives 2 slots to send their teams to the Dallas Major and Stockholm Finals. It's almost a bit unfair, as Zeta Division aren't just the third best Asian team, they're likely the third best team in the entire world. With this video, I want to shine a light on Zeta Division, even if they didn't qualify for Stockholm this year. To start, we will be looking at the first round of Nepal from Zeta Division versus Team Falcons, taking place on Sanctum. This particular submap plays in a unique fashion. You have 3 lanes, the center point lane, the open coast lane, and the enclosed lane. Each individual lane is a pretty thin strip of land, making it difficult to force an advance from any given lane. The center lane is the area of the map that teams want to avoid if possible. If you stand in the center, you will be surrounded by both lanes. This submap is an intense battle over control of both the coastal and enclosed lanes. Because it is so difficult to advance through either lane, both teams are forced to take things a lot slower. This is a battle of 2 lanes and long sight lines across those lanes and the point. The compositions from each team reflect this change in the flow of the game. Both teams run Ashe rather than Cassidy, which is preferred on this map where range is rewarded. Both teams run the Orisa Juno as normal, but have made an adjustment to this backline, opting for Illari rather than the default Brigitte. Illari plays more for range damage and control over angles, while Brigitte plays more for the brawl. It is difficult to force a brawl in the submap due to the thin lanes and lack of maneuverability, so both teams realize that Illari will pay off in this matchup. We'll talk about where these teams will place their Illari in just a moment. The only difference between these compositions is the flex DPS position. Alpha has chosen Mei, while Proper has opted for Pharah. Mei is a bit of an unorthodox pick, because here, Alpha won't be playing Mei in a traditional fashion. Usually Mei will be participating in the brawl with her Orisa, and looking to wall targets to force those brawl situations to occur. Here though, Alpha is going to use Mei to control the enclosed lane instead, playing completely split from Bernard on Orisa. Mei is self-sufficient and is very strong in 1v1 situations, so she can fulfill this role. It's just a little uncommon to see her used this way. Proper's Pharah is actually going to fulfill a similar role. He'll play from the enclosed lane and try and poke down Zeta Division's core. He will also need to contest Alpha and prevent him from advancing through the enclosed lane. Each team's Illari will also help with this battle over the enclosed lane. It will be Fielder and Proper for Team Falcons, while Zeta Division have Alpha in Violet. The rest of the players on the field will fight for control over the open coast lane. Now that we have the macro fundamentals of this matchup out of the way, we can focus on the match itself. Alpha begins by aggressively pushing the Mega Room and putting pressure onto Fielder. Alpha forces Fielder to retreat slightly, but is met with Proper, who must mark him. Proper lands every rocket and deletes Alpha before he's even able to use his own ice block. This was a bit of a mechanical mistake on Alpha's part, a silly mistake that will cost Zeta their first cap. Team Falcons capture the point while Zeta Division are at a disadvantage. Then they can immediately go back to playing their angles on the coast and enclosed lanes. You can really see just how important controlling these lanes is to Falcons. Zeta plays slow, waiting for Alpha to get back before they make their next move. Alpha is back, and both teams spend a bit of time poking, focusing on building ultimates while staying in formation. Proper makes an aggressive push into Mega Room to pressure Alpha and Fielder, but is marked and forced away. Now, Bernard and Finn make their move with a quick rotation, switching from coast over to the center point lane. Zeta want to try and flip point using Orbital, and they can break formation because Orbital is simply that strong of an ultimate. Zeta can take a brawl wherever they want without worrying about angles, at least for a limited amount of time. Hanbin reacts by moving to contest point and match Bernard. Falcons are a little slow with their response though, and Chio's Orbital is only slightly late. Just as Hanbin reaches the point, Alpha throws down a wall to trap him. This allows Zeta to eliminate Hanbin before Chio's Orbital even arrives on point, resulting in an instant fight win. Once Zeta Division clean up, they can return to the same exact formation. Falcons have their Bob and want to use it to begin to force point. The Bob can also apply pressure into Zeta's core from that angle and force them away, so it is a danger. Alpha is aware of this plan though, and can shut it down with just one clever wall. Stalker throws the Bob towards the point. This is a jump that Bob can normally make, but Alpha responds by using a vertical wall to reach over the pit and hit Bob mid-air. Using Maywall to block Bob is actually a really common strategy and is very effective, but this is one of those rare cases where you can completely remove Bob from the fight. The casters were also caught off guard here. Now we'll see another exchange between the two teams in the enclosed lane. Proper and Fielder want to take this first and advance into the Mega Room, so Fielder uses his Captive Sun. In this exchange, Zeta Division have the advantage in terms of positioning and pressure. Violet is completely out of reach, so he can use his own Captive Sun freely, while Alpha Yi challenges head-on. Alpha Yi is able to quickly eliminate Proper, with Fielder falling to Violet's Captive Sun. This 2v2 decides the fight, and Falcons Core are forced to retreat. This fight will play a little differently. Falcons, for the first time, decide to break their formation and make a rotation as a team. Hanbin leads the charge as Falcons rotate their entire team through the enclosed lane. Alpha Yi spots the rotation and quickly walls the door off with a vertical wall that is more difficult to break, splitting Falcons. Hanbin continues to advance. He just needs to get on top of Violet and use the Terra Search to secure the kill. Alpha Yi pulls back to try and help, but is unable to do much in terms of assisting Violet. What Alpha Yi can do is be an absolute nuisance for Hanbin, forcing his Fortify and buying time for Bernard to pressure the backline. Proper tries to get rid of the head of the Horse Council with a barrage, but it does absolutely nothing in the face of Bernard's aura and, well, his Fortify. Hanbin then moves to chase Alpha Yi, who uses his Blizzard as a last-ditch defensive effort. This works, and Hanbin is quickly frozen. At the same time, Bernard closes in on Falcon's backline. Zeta finish Hanbin, and now Falcons just don't have enough time to take an effective fight.
이거 큽니다. 이거 큽니다. 화면에 안 보이는 곳에서 뭐가 있느냐. 베르나르가 화면 밖에서 프로퍼 그 포화 말씀하셨잖아요. 네. 타이밍에 끊었어요. 투창으로 끊어가지고 포화를 끄는 거라면 타이밍에 끊어가지고 이렇게 됐어요.
자, 터치하기 위해 나왔지만 안 되죠. 안 터치하죠.
터치했습니다.
네, 시간 문제예요. 예. 궤도강선이 5분 있는데 그전에 이런 유지가 안 되기 때문에
없습니다. 들어갈 수가 없습니다. 그대로 끝날 것 같습니다. 자, 이렇게 시작 분위기 라운드를 먼저 따르는 팀은 제타 디비전이 될 것 같습니다. 자, 오늘의 제타 확실히 좀 달랐었고,
네.
와, 현장감 역대급인데요.
For this next section of the video, we are going to do a bit of a time skip to the end of the series on Rialto. Zeta Division began on attack, with Falcons on defense. I wanted to cover this specific attack segment of the map because I can introduce some simple macro concepts. This segment will be less focused on Alpha Yi and more focused on the full picture with both teams. Falcons will be defining how Zeta must approach this first point, opting for a more creative Widow-based composition. This might look a little confusing at first, so let's break it down. I like to call this strategy a wall of death. It can be done with plenty of different compositions. The Widow will play near the back of this point, and everything that Falcons do must occur within the line of sight of Proper on Widowmaker. This means that Falcons will allow Zeta Division to push the cart up until this corner where Hanbin will stop the cart. Hanbin's job on Ram is just to survive and stop the cart as long as possible. He cannot advance past Proper's LOS. Stalker on Echo with marked flankers and control space within Proper's LOS as well. Fielder will control the raised hallway and keep Hanbin alive, while Chio just pumps more healing into Hanbin. I call this strategy the Wall of Death because it essentially creates an invisible barrier or wall that both teams struggle to cross. This black line shows where it's located. Defenders cannot cross the black line because they would be fighting outside of Proper's LOS, defeating the purpose of the Widowmaker, but this black line is also extremely difficult for the attackers to cross. They have to deal with the front line of Team Falcons, while also under pressure from Proper on Widow, who just feels impossible to reach. That's why this strategy is so powerful. There's really only one straightforward way to break a wall of death, and that is to go after the isolated Widowmaker and either clear her from her position or kill her. Alpha Yi starts out on Genji, but as soon as Zeta Division realize what they're up against, Alpha Yi runs back to spawn and just swaps to Tracer. Tracer makes a lot of sense against a wall of death. If the Tracer is able to close the distance onto the Widow, the wall will break. Tracer can more easily close large distances and stay on flanks in comparison to Genji. That doesn't mean that this will be easy for Zeta though. Fielder will be in the way of Alpha Yi, and Alpha Yi won't have much help from his team, who will be under constant pressure from Hanbin and Stalker at the corner. Zeta get the cart to the corner, and now it's up to Alpha Yi to attempt to create an opportunity. He wraps around the edge of the map, attempting to approach Proper. He bypasses Stalker, but Fielder is in the way, defending the hallway, and this forces Alpha Yi into an awkward position, providing Proper with a chance to finish the kill. Zeta fail to break the wall, and Falcons do win this first fight. Last fight, Flora was just trying to mirror Proper's Widowmaker to give Zeta a bit more room to work with. This approach is difficult though, and didn't work out so great the first fight, so Flora switches over to Sombra. Zeta Division's goal is now clear. They will bypass the wall with force, clearing Fielder from the hallway as a team rather than relying on Alpha Yi. This approach caught Hanbin by surprise. Zeta quickly rotated up through the hallway, and Hanbin was left on the low ground, unable to assist Falcons. Bernard simply throws his DM on top of Violet and allows him to brawl inside the hallway, and he eliminates Fielder. Flora looks to pressure Proper, and Alpha Yi is able to follow up to finish the kill. Zeta win this fight, but Falcons have one more chance to recontest. Zeta Division also have a problem. They've used their own orbital, but Team Falcons have not. Orbital advantage is extremely valuable in this Juno-defined meta, so Zeta need to be able to kite the orbital at any point in time. Before the next fight begins though, Alfie sets up from behind, looking to spawn kill Proper. Alfie underestimates Proper's game though, and with a quick goob, Proper walks out of spawn with half his health bar left to spare. Chio had also used his orbital during this fight, and Hanbin walked through Zeta, granting a fight win. At the start of the next fight, Hanbin makes a critical mistake. He uses his ram form to force Bernard away, but he tries to get more value out of it by throwing a few more punches into Zeta's backline. This was a mistake though, and Zeta quickly run at Hanbin, who now lacks form to survive a proper fight. Violet uses the rally, and Hanbin is cornered. Alfie makes the excellent decision to use Pulse on Hanbin, securing the kill for Zeta. Yes, Alfie could have gone for a squishy target, but assuring Hanbin's demise provides the best chances for Zeta here. A guaranteed kill onto the opposing tank is great, so this was worthwhile. Stalker trades with Pulse onto Violet, so this fight is a 4v4, but this isn't a 4v4 that favors Falcons. First off, Proper and Widow here is a liability more than anything. His LOS in this position is extremely limited, so he's kind of relying on Zeta to misstep. The other three members of Falcons just can't win this fight on their own. No ultimates, no easy contest. Flora jumps in with the EMP, and Bernard sends Fielder back to spawn. Zeta Division can clean up and move on to the second point. Alfie makes another swap, this time over to Genji. Second point plays more to Genji's strengths, and it also isn't easy to get set up on second point of Rialto with Tracer. There aren't enough enclosed spaces for her to rotate through, and she can struggle with the verticality. Genji can easily engage from any angle with a simple wall climb, and he can generally move around this point with ease. Yes, Zeta are still concerned about Proper's Widowmaker, but the Widow usually isn't as oppressive on the second point. For Falcons to keep the Widowmaker, they need to take a similar approach to the previous point. They must allow Zeta Division to push the cart to the halfway point, and then they will set Proper in a far position at the end of the second point. As always, Falcons cannot try to take a fight out of Proper's LOS, so they need to bait Zeta Division into the open space within the second half of the point. Because Falcons decided to keep the Widowmaker, and Zeta weren't as concerned about breaking the wall directly, Flora swaps right back over to Widow to directly contest Proper. This is a common approach used to beat teams that use Widow on defense. Hanbin stops cart as always, and now Zeta can use their orbital to break through. Hanbin retreats after using his form, playing to live until after the orbital. Stalker sees an opportunity here and decides to try and assassinate Flora. This doesn't work out though, as Violet is able to react extremely quickly, blocking the focusing beam completely, saving Flora's life. Violet's first kill is key, and now Falcons need to look to trade. Hanbin uses his annihilation after the orbital expires, trying to trade Alfie, but Violet keeps him alive, using a shield bash to retreat away from Hanbin afterwards. Fielder commits rally to assist Hanbin, but Falcons are just unable to trade. Falcons' last chance to win this fight is to build Orbital Ray, but Chio is in an awkward position and is taken down at 99% with a quick right click from Alfie, alongside assistance from Finn. With this decisive kill, Zeta Division won this fight and nearly secured the second point. It seems like Falcons wanted to go for a contest here, but Flora stops that very quickly, removing Chio in his own spawn while he was trying to help get Hanbin out faster. Stalker and Fielder just charge in, trying to reset. This wasn't a true attempted recontest, just a quick reset since they lost their orbital and had no chance of winning anyways. Going into next, Team Falcons may seem to be at an ultimate disadvantage, but again, Orbital Ray is just incredibly strong. Flora uses sights and looks down main, while the rest of Zeta push the cart as far as they can. Falcons rotate through the left side doorway to avoid Flora's sightline, and they use Orbital to run out onto Zeta Division. The decision making here from Zeta is actually amazing. They realize they can trade Orbital just for Widow sights, and they want to swap a Widow anyway, so that's not a big problem for them. Even if Zeta fail to successfully kite the Orbital and, use their ultimates after, which unfortunately occurs, they can still practically guarantee a win in the next fight due to their massive ultimate advantage. As expected, Flora moves off of Widow, opting for Ashe instead. Bob is a pretty useful and effective engagement tool in this third point attack. It's easy to throw Bob out into the final room to create an opportunity. Falcons start close, trying to take an aggressive fight, but Zeta Division simply use their Blade and Rally to wipe this fight. Team Falcons might have been trying to get ultimates out of Zeta Division on purpose with no intent of actually trying to win this fight, so it's a little hard to tell, but either way, Falcons do get another guaranteed fight after this, so this wasn't necessarily a terrible fight for them. Now, Falcons stop the cart at the doorway, and this is the most difficult choke to break on this map, but Zeta Division still have an important tool that they can use to break through, Orbital Ray. Although Zeta have orbital advantage, they still need to keep in mind that Falcons hold an overall ultimate advantage. Trying to force your way through a trope with just an orbital can be very difficult against an opponent who can suppress you with several ultimates. Zeta Division decide that they will take this fight slower rather than trying to push orbital advantage. This allows Falcons to build a massive bank of 5 ultimates, so Zeta must survive and build their own ultimates to match. The first use is Stalker, who isn't able to get any value out of his Genji copy. Zeta keep playing slow, and they're very patiently building up Bernard's Annihilation as well as Flora's Bob. Team Falcons realize what Zeta are trying to do, and they realize that Zeta are trying to farm ultimates, so they decide to make the first definitive move of this fight with Chio's Orbital. Hanben uses his opportunity to rush Zeta's backline. Stalker is able to find Flora on his angle, but Finn's Orbital is used second in order to suppress Hanben, who has now used his Annihilation to continue to try and advance. Zeta's backline follow the Orbital, running away from Hanben. Bernard uses the Orbital to enable his own Annihilation, taking Chio down, and now Team Falcon's defensive hold has fallen apart. Falcons went on to match Zeta Division on their own attack, and then proceeded to win the map outright in an intense round 4. Team Falcons would go on to win the entire Asia region in a 4-3 match against Crazy Raccoon, and this just goes to show how competitive the top of Asia really is. Any one of these 3 teams could have been eliminated. Zeta Division just weren't able to push through and beat Falcons. It's disappointing that we won't see these players at LAN in Stockholm, so I hope that we see a bit of a rule change next year that prioritizes Asia. The region produces the best teams in the world, and for that, they should have just as many slots as everyone else. Thank you as always for watching. If you want any more OC content, check out my second channel. It's pretty cool. You can get videos on this channel early by supporting me on my Ko-fi page, so check that out if you're interested. I also stream pretty often and do live POV analysis and co-streams for matches and scrims, so if you're interested in that, follow me on Twitch and join my Discord for stream and video updates. Thanks for the support, and have a good day.